All right, as far as upcoming video games are concerned, one of the many games that many people have been talking about and are hoping to see sometime within this year, is basically a game developed by Naughty Dog and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment called The Last of Us Part 2. This action adventure survival horror game is going to be the direct sequel of the Last of Us game that came out back in 2013 for the PlayStation 3, and The Last of Us Part 2 will be exclusively for the PlayStation 4. Now, for those who do not know, the game was first announced at the PlayStation Experience event basically in December of 2016, and it's a game that's been in development since 2014. So basically, it's a game that that has been in development for at least 5 years, now, and basically it's a game that it's considered to be one of the most anticipated video games that people are waiting to see on the PlayStation 4. Now, for those who do not know, basically the sequel to the original Last of Us game, this game, Last of Us Part 2, will basically see the return of the main characters, Ellie and Joel, and basically their respective voice actors, Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, will return to voice these characters. And basically the story is written by Neil Druckmann, who was the writer and director of the first Last of Us game that came out back in 2013. And basically, this game will also introduce a couple of new characters named Yara, Lev, Emily, and basically and another character. So basically, this game basically was featured at the E3 event back in June of 2018, and it's a game that a lot of people have been very excited to see. And basically, the game basically revolves around a person who controls an older version of Ellie, who basically has to deal with a cult that takes place in a post-apocalyptic country of America. So based on the trailers that we have seen, because we've seen one not last year, but in 2017, late 2017, and we saw some trailers back at E3, and basically the visuals for this game look amazing, and basically is definitely going to include multiplayer gameplay similar to the first Last of Us game. And basically this game, one of the many things that people are expecting from Last of Us Part 2 is the fact that it's going to surpass Part 1. And if I'm not mistaken, Last of Us Part 1, since its release exclusively for the PlayStation 3, has managed to sell at least 17 million units worldwide, and is considered to be one of the best-selling PS3 games of the decade. And as far as whether or not Last of Us Part 2 is going to surpass Part 1 is something that's questionable. It's possible that it can sell 17 million units worldwide within a year or two, considering how fast and how popular PlayStation 4 games have been since their releases and how fast they have been selling in a very short period of time. But as it currently stands, we do not even know the exact release date of Last of Us Part 2, and we don't even know if it's going to come out in 2019. It's probably most likely going to come out in 2019, especially considering the fact that Sony will be eventually revealing the PlayStation 5 sometime in either the latter part of this year or early part of 2020, because PlayStation or Sony's going to basically move on to their next gen console. So there's no doubt that the Last of Us Part 2 is going to be released sometime, hopefully this year, not this year, early next year, but we're betting that's coming out this year. But Last of Us Part 2 is definitely an action adventure survival horror game that basically everybody wants to play, and it's something that seemed like it's going to be an absolute adventure for those who were fans of the first Last of Us game. And hopefully, as time progresses, we'll learn more from Sony in terms of the release date of The Last of Us Part 2. But until then, this is definitely going to be one of the hottest games of the year if it does indeed come out in 2019, which is something that we are hoping we'll see sometime this year.